Chapter 4: Communication and Negotiation. Communication and negotiation is a mandatory RICS APC competency required to level 2. This means that you need to write up your summary of experience, including a statement at both levels 1 and 2. The RICS pathway guide sets out the relevant knowledge level 1 and practical application level 2 for this competency. However, you do not need to have experienced everything listed, as this will depend on your experience and role. This chapter will explain what you should know in relation to communications and negotiation, covering the main requirements of level 1. Communication and negotiation will be dealt with separately as they are two distinct activities, although every negotiation also involves communicating effectively. Communication. Effective communication is a key skill that every surveyor needs to master, as it forms the basis of all professional instructions and interactions. Surveyors need to communicate with a wide variety of other people, ranging from lay clients to other highly experienced professionals. This means that surveyors need to be able to adapt their communication method and style to the audience in question. Effective communication requires a communicator, a method, a recipient. However, misunderstandings and confusion can be created within all elements. The communicator has to encode their message with the chosen communication method. Thus, this reflects the original thought, intended message, and purpose of the communication. Is the method appropriate for the intended message? The recipient has to decide the communication. Does the understood message reflect the message that the communicator intended to relay to the recipient? Communication can also be one-way or two-way. In one-way communication, we do not receive any immediate feedback. Example, a letter. In two-way communication, we receive immediate feedback and can clarify or rectify misunderstandings. Example, verbal communication. This, of course, depends on whether the other party is listening, though, which is a skill in itself. Deciding on whether one-way or two-way communication will be most effective is important. Writing an email or letter one way might be better if clarifying client and instructions or rent review proposal, whereas calling another agent to discuss a deal. Two-way communication may result in a better outcome. Difficult or challenging conversation or negotiations are often better delivered via two-way communication, as it allows both parties to raise concern, dispel misunderstandings, and build rapport. Early career stage surveyors are often keen to hide behind email, as they lack the confidence to speak to another more experienced surveyor or client. However, practice makes perfect, and it is advisable to work on your communication skills. Early in your career, some of the relationships you build at this stage will remain with you for years to come. With the advent of working from home post-pandemic, it is really important to ensure that you have the opportunity to learn from your peers. Being in an office or shadowing another surveyor provides an excellent opportunity to pick up skills from others. These could include overhearing how to deal with a difficult situation or how to negotiate on the telephone. An office environment also provides you with the opportunity to share ideas with others, discuss instructions, receive feedback on your work, and pick up the key skills a surveyor needs. These are often not written in any university level textbook. When communicating, there are some key questions that surveyors should ask themselves. Who is the target audience? Are there any time limits or urgency of response required? How does the communication need to be responded recorded in writing. For example, a rent review, call a bank offer. So you need to look up what a call a bank offer. I'm sure that's a good question for in your question and answers. In their history of communication between the parties, what is the most appropriate method of communicating? What is the intended message? A communication comes in a variety of forms, including written reports, letters, emails, social media books, magazines, online articles, and blogs. Graphic maps, drawn plans, sketch notes, designs, logos, branding, and visualizations. Verbal, telephone calls, meeting, tenders, presentations, managing people, and negotiations. More about this later on in this chapter. Non-verbal body language appearance, posture, eye contact, facial expressions, and gestures. There are some of the biggest barriers to effective communication. See if you can come up with ways to avoid these in your professional practice. Verbal tone of voice, clarity, language barriers that we don't say, i.e., silence. Jargon or technical language. Who is the audience? Will they understand technical terms, or should simple and non-technical lay language be used? Yeah, so that's especially when I go out on site using when I speak to clients, when I speak to especially vulnerable adults. It's important to speak in lay terms so they can understand what you're talking about, and then you appear that you are genuine and you care about their issues. Emotional or cultural barriers. The recipient is disinterested or not paying attention. So that could happen, especially if they've got an issue. They may have an issue. They feel they have an issue and they may not agree with your resolution for that issue. This tends to happen when tenants will invite me out to have a look at their kitchens, and if their kitchen might be in good working order, but they want a brand new kitchen. They at the time, they had kitchens with the brown pool handle, but they wanted to be upgraded to the Howdens Greenwich range at the time. That was many years ago. Timing of the communication. Physical barriers, example, folded or hand over mouth. Differences in perception, viewpoint, prejudice or bias. Different expectations, interruptions, noise, physical distractions, location, cannot physically meet in person. Attitude, mood, poor listening skills, assumptions, prior experience, ambiguity, and context. Active listening is essential to facilitate effective communication. This goes beyond just hearing what is being said. Active listening involves being present and active in the communication process. Skills including using eye contact, employing non-verbal cues, asking open-ended questions, paraphrasing, reflecting, and being attentive where communication is ineffective. This can lead to time delays, frustrations, stress, unforeseen costs, and contractual issues. Thus, getting it right can lead to a more positive experience, potentially winning new work, doing a difficult deal, or resolving a complex situation. Here are 10 top tips on ways to be a better communicator.